That's absolutely fine.
Okay, so Suzi, thank you so much, first of all, for spending some time with me to do this. I'm really hoping that some of these interviews will inspire people. And give them the opportunity to know that they can make it doing what they want to do on some level, and especially like young women, basically, because it's hard in our industries.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah.
So what I would really like to do is, first and foremost, this is Suzi Mue, or is that what you would prefer, by the way, Suzi Mue?
Yeah, actually, this is like kind of my
work
my work name, basically. Okay. Yeah.
So for those of you watching or listening, this is Suzi Mue, and Suzi is a live music photographer. And I'm going to ask her to give you a brief overview of what she does and her journey and some of the people that she's worked with. And really, I'd like you to kind of tell us how you got into live music photography, like what your journey was from the start to being where you are now, and some of the people that you worked with.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, hello, and thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. And this is actually the first interview I'm giving. I'm like used to doing interviews like you are doing with me right now. So I'm on the other side now. So we'll see how it goes. Touch wood. So, well, I took photos basically my whole life. I always had like a camera with me. I always carried a camera with me, like the small digital cameras from back then. And I just captured random things, like everything. And when I started to go into concerts, I mean, my first concert, I've been at my first concert at the age of 7, I think. So I started at a very young age. It all came from my parents. They always used to go to concerts and still do it. And so this is kind of where it came from. And at some point, I was just fascinated by the light. I loved like actually watching a show, like watching all the lights, how they move and all the patterns they create. And this is kind of what inspired me to like, I want to capture this.
Nice.
And I thought like, how? I had absolutely no idea how to get into the industry, or like, because like, you know, you can't just grab your big like DSLR camera or like digital camera, like your professional camera. You can't just take it with you to a concert because they won't let you in. You need a special pass for that. And I was like, how do I get this pass? And you rarely get a pass if you're a private person. So if you text the venues or the promoters, they're like, no, we can't give you a pass. You need to be a press person or whatever. But I haven't been a press person back then. So my first ever show I shot, I somehow managed to get in contact with, like, get in touch with the band who was playing. They were really small. And it was in 2013 when I studied in a small city in Germany. I'm not going to name it because I guess no one knows the city. Cool. Maybe when you're in Germany, but I won't bother you with that now. So it was a very small club and a small show, and a friend of mine knew the band as well, so she kind of connected me, and they were like, yeah, that's fine, she can just come over and take some photos. So I did that, and I had so much fun. I obviously didn't get any money for this. And I gave the band some photos, and they were super happy with them. When I look back at these photos nowadays, I think like, holy shit, these are crap. The light was shit. It was so dark. I didn't use flash. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I only had one lens with me, like not even a zoom lens. And it was just chaotic, but it was amazing. And then I did some research, and I was like, okay, I want to do this, but obviously it's super hard to like contact bands because they never reply or rarely reply. So I figured out, okay, press photography. So I can look for a magazine or something like that to get photo passes through that magazine. So I did that with a local one in Leipzig, Germany. But they actually only did like party photos, like just like random party photos. And they were like, well, actually, we can try because no one does concert photos. So I'm not sure if we get like photo passes, but we can try. So I said like, yeah. And they got like a few like smaller shows from like local German bands, for example. They got like photo passes for me because they had the connections. But it was only to a certain point, and I was like, okay, I need to look for something else. And then I found an online magazine from Germany, but it was online, like just online. It was called Stage Load. And I just texted them. It was just from fans for fans. They did like album reviews, they posted news and all that stuff, did photography, interviews, but usually just interviews like that you can read. And so I kind of joined the team because I think they didn't even have someone around Leipzig, because I lived around Leipzig in that time.
Right.
So that was perfect for me. There was no one else that could like be like, oh, I want to go to that show, because you only get like one photo pass
Yeah,
per
cool.
magazine.
Yeah.
So this helped a lot. But the thing was, I didn't reach out to the people. It went all through that magazine. So I always had to reach out to a person from the magazine, and she had all the contacts and did everything. So it was kind
So
of,
it's like lots of steps.
yeah,
The band was playing, you get hold of the magazine then tries to get hold of the band or their press agent, and
exactly.
So right around the houses then.
Exactly. And usually things like these, they can't really figure that out like months before the show, or even weeks, or sometimes even days before the show, because most of the times you got like the accreditation, like the confirmation for the accreditation, like a day before the show, or sometimes on the day of the show. So you had to be very flexible. I studied at that time, so it was quite easy for me to get somewhere. So I was flexible.
And were you
that
studying photography as well at the time, or were you studying something completely outside of your career?
I studied design, like graphic design, and photography was a part, programming was a part of it, even like building furniture was a part of it, like everything that had something to do with design. And then you could like focus on certain stuff. I focused on videography, by the way, and graphic design. But yeah, so it wasn't too much, like too far away from. Yeah, exactly. So I did that with them, but I think I've only been there for like half of a year, or a year maybe. And then I found another online magazine, which was called All Schools. And at that time, these two magazines were basically like one of the biggest ones from Germany.
Oh, cool.
But like all in German and in Germany, basically. I mean, although it was online, but you know. So I managed to swap to All Schools. And pretty quickly I became like a member, like of the team who organized everything and stuff.
Nice. Cool.
At some point I even organized like accreditations for other members. So it went through me then. And this was pretty cool because I had all the contacts, and I could like contact all the press people and be like officially from All Schools. I had an email address and everything, so that helped a lot. And so I managed to like I started doing interviews for them as well, because of my studying, focusing on videography. I was like I interviewed like random people for like projects during my study, and I thought I can do this with musicians as well. So I did photography the whole time, and started doing interviews and doing video interviews as a one woman army. Basically, I carried all my stuff, my like 2 cameras, lights, and had like all these press appointments. I was still studying at that point, so I had lots of time. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And I managed through All Schools, I managed to even interview my favorite band, Green Day. I managed to interview Mike Dirt and like Billy Talent multiple times, and Sum 41.
So
Like
cool.
it was crazy. It was really, really, really cool. And I put all my heart and effort in that. And always did concert photography still, but never like for bands. Only for All Schools, for the press. And then at some point, I mean, you know how it is. You study, then you get a job, and then suddenly you don't have time anymore with a full-time job. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I tried to manage it still, and I put news online as well on the website, and it was just a lot. And by the way, we didn't make any money. We didn't make any money with the website. So we paid all ourselves, like all the travel costs and stuff. I needed to pay for that. Like that came on top. And at some point, like after a few years, I was like, that's too much. I started feeling like I don't even have fun anymore doing these interviews because in the beginning I was super motivated. I prepared so many questions. I always made sure that I can't like ask these questions another person, like they were specific for the band, because I always hated when people just go like, oh, do you prefer like club shows or do you prefer festivals? You know, I didn't like questions like these. I wanted to know why they wrote this line or whatever,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So it was quite a lot of work, and I just didn't have the time anymore and the motivation because it was just a lot. And people kind of like the promoters and the press people kind of expected from me at that point that I do like good interviews and stuff because they were always happy with what I was doing, which was great. But I was like, it's just getting too much. So I slowed it down a little bit until the point where I didn't really do interviews anymore. And even concert photography, I lost the love a little bit, so
Okay.
to say, because I I wanted more, but I didn't know how because my dream was always going on tour.
Mhm,
And at some point I figured with the press photography, it doesn't get me anywhere,
mhm.
like higher than what I'm doing with it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
need to find another way because these promo people couldn't help me out either because they're just doing promo, they're not management
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
you know. So I was like, I need other contacts basically. I need to start at point zero kind of.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't even remember how oh yeah, my bachelor thesis. I did my bachelor thesis about light design at
Cool.
concerts. But like I interviewed light designer basically in
Nice.
Berlin. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know how, but I managed to get the contact somehow. I probably looked all over the internet and asked venues. I think I asked venues, yeah, if like the house techs were okay with me interviewing them, and I was telling them what I was doing and stuff like that. And then I managed to get two people. With one I'm actually still in touch today, which is quite nice. So I managed to get two people who knew each other as well. So I interviewed them both and asked them like about the different lights and everything. And for that bachelor thesis, I went on a small like weekend van tour with a band,
Cool.
with a German band. They celebrated their like 10 years anniversary.
And did you get
Um,
that tour through the lighting guys that you were interviewing?
No, actually not. They didn't have to do anything with each other. The funny thing was, I kind of looked for bands who did like anniversary tours at that moment, like in Germany. Um, and I reached out to a few, and some didn't reply, and some were like, "Oh, that sounds nice. We'll stay in touch," but they never got back to me again. And that one band, they were like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Let's do it." And
Yeah.
then we basically did it. And so I filmed them and joined them, and that's how I got more
Mhm.
contacts that were like actually like in touring parties and
Mhm.
stuff. And this is kind of how it all started, like that I started slowly going on tour,
Sure.
and that helped a lot basically. And then I thought, okay, maybe I should reach out to bands. So I tried that, and then I got like a few bits and bobs here and there. But like I said, it's super exhausting to do that because most of them never get back or are like, oh, your work is great, we'll get back to you, but they never do.
Mhm.
And it's quite like, um, and then um, I tried to. like I wanted to be more creative. I like on social media, especially on Instagram. At some point, I found it boring to just post concert photos that I took.
Right.
So I started doing these collages.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
and I started doing that, and then I tried to remember how. Um, but I some yeah. I remember I was on tour with a German band who I reached out to on Facebook, and they got back to me, and then they booked me for like a few shows here and there.
Okay.
And then they had a small tour coming up where they supported Anti-Flag for 3 dates.
Nice.
And at that point, it was a long time ago. So no one knew back then what happened. And I was super excited because Anti-Flag was always a band I was listening to for ages, and it was huge for me. I was like, fucking hell, Anti-Flag, oh my God. So we were on that tour, and at this time I worked for a radio station where I did interviews as well, a rock radio station in Berlin. And like a month before that tour, Anti-Flag came over to this radio station to do interviews, and I did the interview with them.
Okay, so you met them before you even went on tour with
exactly, yeah.
That must have really helped out, right? Like
yeah, totally. And then they remembered me the month after that. They were like, "Oh, you're the radio girl," and I was like,
nice.
"Yeah." So this is how I like started to get in touch with them. So they took me on tour.
Nice.
And I actually just I just took photos for them and cut like here and there a reel if they wanted to. And then I put a collage on my personal Instagram online with their photos. And then number two, like Chris, the bass player, was like, "Oh my God, I love your collages. Like, can you do that for us too?" And this is kind of how it started. So I did these collages for them. And then like more people started reaching out to me because they saw my work on the Anti-Flag Instagram account. And then suddenly people even in the audience, people started talking to me, "Aren't you the girl like who does Anti-Flag as well?" Like when I was with Zebrahead somewhere then or stuff like that. So this is kind of how
it all started.
Yeah. And then just like more and more people saw it and reached out to me or like talked to me, or I figured networking like face to face is just the best when you're somewhere, especially festivals, when you're somewhere. I mean, you still have to stay professional and can't bother anyone, but if the chance is there, just use it. Like I learned that pretty quickly, that you have to use every chance that you get, basically, that you don't waste it, but still like be polite and be chill, even if it's maybe a band you're like a big fan of. It's like you can't act like a crazy fan. You have to be professional and everything. But that's kind of what I learned while I was doing all these interviews back then, because like I said, I interviewed like one of my all-time favorite musicians, and I was like, okay, chill. All is good. They're just cooking with water. you know. So yeah, this is kind of how it started, really.
That's an amazing story. I mean, it actually it's quite reflective of how you start as a band in the music industry as well, you know, like I actually started as a reviewer for a little publication called the Punk Archive when I was studying music business.
So doing your study as well.
Right, so it's so similar the way that you have that kind of connection there, because I did a music business degree because I was already performing and I didn't see the point in, like, I didn't really give a toss about theory and stuff like that. So getting into publications meant getting into gigs and getting into festivals and then talking to management and press and PR and you know all the people that come with the band as well as the bands. You start so I interviewed Less Than Jake back in 2014.
Aww.
And I don't even think that they remember that. But obviously we then ended up touring with them later with a separate journey. So that's really, really cool to hear.
That's crazy.
And I think that would be great advice for somebody, which is one of my questions actually at the end of this. So I might revisit that, but I'm assuming your advice for somebody wanting to get into sort of live music photography is kind of a similar thing, like get in any way you can and make those connections as much as you can.
Exactly.
Professional and approachable, right?
Yeah, exactly. You really have to go out there and show your face and show who you are. It doesn't really make sense to just sit in front of your laptop and be like, because that's not it. I mean, it can help, but it's just exhausting. And I would really recommend like go out there, go to your like small club shows and just talk to the people, because most of the times smaller bands are at the merge anyway. And if you go there and like talk to them or whatever, you never know what will happen. So yeah,
that's great advice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, listeners/viewers, we're now going to start getting into the nitty gritty, because actually one of the reasons I really wanted to start doing these interviews, and Suzi is our first, to actually talk to it's an honor for me, is to really understand, for people to understand what it's like to be a woman in a very male dominated area of the music industry. And Suzi, we both know we see very few female photographers in the pit, right? And when we do see them, it's like, whoa, there's a woman there, like, woo! Like, it's actually exciting to see somebody that isn't a guy wielding a camera and ferociously taking photos. Not that there's a problem with that. Obviously, guys take great photos too, but this series is really about getting to know people that I've worked with that are women in the industry, and how that is as an experience in your sector of the music industry. So I got you to send me some questions because I wanted you to be able to visit the stories you think are important to your experience. And I felt it was important that rather than me dictating what you could talk about, you could tell me about experiences and hopefully inspire other people through those stories. So the first one you sent me was, how do you get along on a tour bus with only male people in the crew?
Yeah. The funny thing is, so many people ask me this question. Even like my parents, they managed to come out to a show here and there, and then I showed them the tour bus. And for example, when my parents came to a Zebrahead show, we were only two women, the merch girl, Shallow, and me. And all of the other people were are men. As like we were, I think, 16 people when they visited us. And my mom, I showed her the bus, and she was just like, when we got off the bus again, she was like, but these are all dudes, Suzi. I was like, yeah. So it's just I just thought it's interesting, because a lot of people ask me this question, like, how do you get along on the tour bus with almost just dudes in there? Like, people just imagine that it stings, that they're rowdy, that they're like total dickheads, or that they all treat me like a piece of meat or whatever. But it's not like that. It's just I just wanted to get that out there. Like, the people I toured with are all lovely on the tour bus, or like while touring, because I mean the bus is like your home for a few weeks or for a few days, so everyone treats it like that as well. It's like your safe space. It's like I said, your home basically. And everyone got his or her own role during the tour, so everyone knows what they're doing. And it works out quite well. It's not that everyone is at the same time in the same space, because everyone got something to do every day, because they're there for a job and not on holiday or whatever. So they leave you alone and do your work and stuff like that. But they're not like creepy or whatever, like, to you, because I mean most of them have like wives at home and stuff, so why would they? It just doesn't make sense, you know. So but I guess I'm just pretty lucky with the people I toured with so far, that I never had problems, because I can imagine that it can be different as well, or like that people are just total dickheads. I hope you don't have to beep
that the women's
everything.
experience, there's always going to be have done what you're doing, but have had a completely different, very negative experience. And it's great you can actually sit here and say, actually, so far I've been safe, and that's amazing.
You know,
and that's really cool as an experience. You can say that. But
Yeah.
where a lot of tours, you're on your bus, you might be safe and they might be all cool, but you're probably meeting different crew members every single night at every single show, right? So
Yeah.
have you had any bad experiences with crew members outside of those buses?
Like not in a creepy way, but in a not respectful way. Definitely yes. It basically, I'm always prepared for that because it happened so many times. And most of the times it's unfortunately with security.
Okay.
I don't have that many problems with like in-house people. They're actually usually they're nice. Sometimes they're a bit grumpy, but it's not that they're dickheads to you. But I mean, that's just the way they are. Like whatever. Um, but like with securities, because I always have the feeling that they're not briefed enough, that they just don't know. So actually it's not their fault, but in that moment how they treat me, it's just like I'm trying to do my job here and I've got a time limit because I've only got the show. So please don't discuss something with me right now because I need to go there.
Okay.
Like one situation I think of was am I allowed to say the festival?
Sure, you
Or
say whatever you want.
okay.
Like,
Okay, perfect. So I was at Year on Air Festival with Anti-Flag. And we did like a tour and like a festival run with like headline shows in between. So I had an Anti-Flag pass for the tour, and a pass for the Year on Air Festival, obviously. So they were playing, and I always try to be like everywhere. I go through the crowd. I go to front of house to have like crowd shots from the back. I go on stage behind the drums and whatever, like in front of the barrier. Like I try to get like every angle covered.
yeah.
And in this situation, I just came back from the crowd, and I needed to go like all the way around the crowd to go back to the stage, like from behind. And there was like a path that led me on stage, and there was a security guy standing there, and he was like, I saw that a person in front of me wanted to get side stage, and he was like, no, side stage is already full. I can't let you up here, unfortunately. So this person needed to leave. And I already thought in my head, oh my God, we'll see what happens. So I went to that security guy and he wouldn't let me on stage. And I was like, I'm working for this band. I need to do my job. I need to take photos. And he was like, no, no, no. And he basically didn't believe me. And he just believed me because I had this anti-flag pass. So if I wouldn't have had this pass in that time, there was literally nothing I could have done because there was no one, because obviously all the crew was working. So the only option was maybe front of house to go there and be like, can you shout at someone or whatever? But like, in that moment,
time though, wouldn't it, to go all the way down?
Exactly. And like festival, you only have maybe 40 minutes or so. And I was like, what the hell? Like, why don't you believe me? And in situations like these, I always think if I would have been a guy, I guess he would have been like, oh yeah, sure, or whatever. I don't know, obviously, but like situations like these happen a lot where they just don't believe you and you're like, oh fucking hell, I've got like all my stuff here, like what do you think I'm doing? It's like,
isn't it walk around festivals with really heavy cameras for fun? Like it's my hobby.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to get buff by lifting heavy stuff everywhere, actually.
I need muscles. So situations like these happen quite a lot, especially at festivals. And just recently on a tour in November, December in Munich, a security guy shouted at me. It was so ridiculous. There was a pit in front of the stage, so there was a barrier, and I could go like as a press photographer, you usually get the first 3 songs without flash, and then exactly, and then you have to leave the pit. And like when you're with the band, you're obviously allowed the whole time to be there. So I usually wait till the press photographers are gone just to give them more space. And I usually take the time to take photos like from the back or so, because sometimes the pit can be quite crowded and it's just
Sure.
annoying to have another person there. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them space, then I have space and everything's fine.
Sure.
So I went there at the like during the fourth or fifth song, and the like head of security, he wouldn't let me in the pit. He was like, the first three songs. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I'm with the band. I'm working for them. I'm allowed to be here the whole time. He was like, no, photographer, the first three songs. And I'm like, yeah, press photographers, but not me. And it was a German show, and I didn't speak German to him because I thought it's maybe more when I speak English, it's maybe more like,
Bit more
I don't
gravitas,
know.
like
Yeah.
you're actually traveling with them.
Yeah, exactly. He basically wouldn't let go and even pushed me out of the way at some point, like
He
physically pushed me
physically
out of the
touched
way.
you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And our guitar tech saw it as well on on the side of the stage. And I just shouted at him. I can't remember what I shouted, to be honest, but I was so angry. I was just
Yeah.
like, I was frustrated. I was angry, and I was just like, God damn it! Like, just let me in here. Like, what's your fucking problem? I had a pass and everything.
Yeah.
So I basically just stayed there. I wasn't listening to him. And at that point, all of the security guys started ignoring me. Like when I left the pit again and came back again eventually after a few songs, they didn't even look at me anymore, because usually they look at you and like smile and be like, yeah, it's fine. We know you. And they
So
would
it
just
became like
all,
a boys' club of like, you won this battle and we don't like it.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah,
ridiculous. How
yeah,
childish.
yeah.
That's so childish.
And our guitar tech even asked me like during the show, like, what the hell happened there? I saw that, but I couldn't really understand. But then I saw you like manage to fix it on your own, because I was about to go up there. And I was
Right.
like, I was explaining the situation, and he would have helped me out basically, which is really nice. But like, yeah, that was just another situation. It's usually with security like that, they just won't let you in again and don't
Right.
believe you, even
Right.
if you have a pass or anything. It's just like,
And have you ever experienced that from an outsider watching, where they've allowed, say, a guy to go straight through after three songs and out in a similar situation, but then when it's you, they're not believing you? Do you feel like that's a thing? Has that happened?
I haven't seen it, but
Okay.
I've never seen a male photographer arguing with a security guy. So I've never seen it. I just see them like walking around, and like everyone leaves them alone basically.
Okay.
But I've never experienced it or
So
was
you
like
don't have
next
the
to them.
direct comparison, basically, of.
Yeah, unfortunately
Like,
not. Yeah.
no, I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's a question to ask as opposed to knowing whether or not you'd be able to.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
more like, I'm curious as to whether or not
Yeah.
it's a different
Yeah.
experience if you're a guy, and do you ever come up against that with a security guard? So that may be something I could ask somebody else somewhere down the line. So
Yeah.
when you're doing more of your like press photography rather than touring photography, or
Hmm.
if you're on tour and you choose to be in the pit when it's like three songs and out,
Hmm.
how is that when you're like probably the only female photographer? Maybe you might have one other female photographer if you're lucky, and you sometimes there's like, when we've played big festivals and stuff, there's sometimes like 8, 10, 12 photographers in one.
Yeah.
It's insane the amount of people that you've suddenly got in front of you, like
Yeah.
paparazzi. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know who to look at right now.
Yeah.
How is
It's
that? Like, do you
crazy.
feel like you are respected within that space? Do you feel like you have the ability to get the shots that you want, or are you constantly fighting for what you need to do?
Well, I must say most of them, in my experience, as a press photographer especially, most of them are really polite,
That's great.
and most of them are not walking in front of your camera. They like duck down and stuff like that.
Great.
And they like watch other people, what they're doing right now, where the camera is. And actually there's this kind of unspoken rule
Mhm.
that you don't that when you're in the pit with other photographers, that you don't do that with your camera, like
Okay.
that you don't hold it above your head, because another photographer could be behind you and try to shoot something, and then you're there with your fucking camera.
Mhm.
I know a few photographers, press photographers, who do that and who are not respectful, not polite, and who don't give a shit at all in the pit. I won't say any names because I think that's unfair, but I know a few. But luckily, that might sound a bit mean, but they never tour
Okay.
because they never get tours. And they
Okay.
even ask themselves why. But I always think, you're just not a nice person. I'm
Yeah,
sorry
I
to say
mean,
it, but you're
that's
just
so
not.
key, isn't it,
It's
in
like,
this industry, is being
yeah, yeah,
cool, being kind.
yeah, exactly. And like, they don't even respect other photographers. Like, what do you expect? And that's really annoying.
Mm.
And
But you're
like,
saying that those kind of people are kind of few and far between, though. They're a minority
yeah,
of people that you come up against.
yeah,
Do you know what I love about this is that, you know, I've come into this conversation with no expectations whatsoever, but worried that you were going to be needing to tell me some quite sensitive, horrible experiences, you know. But
yeah,
actually, I think this conversation is doing a great job of showing young women and girls that actually it's still a safe space, you know. And if
yeah,
you get into photography, the likelihood is that the majority of people are going to make that good for you, that you're going to
yeah,
have a good
yeah.
time doing that.
The positive. Was that a cat?
Yes.
Oh,
If you're listening to this, my cat has joined the chat. And I'll grab her in a second. She's sitting on my windowsill at the moment, but I'll grab her for you to say hello in a little while. But yeah, I'm so excited that actually you've had a really easy, quite cool experience. I mean,
yeah,
easy in that people around you have made it
yeah,
easy when you've been working with them. That's
yeah,
a lovely
exactly.
thing to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The
what about audience members? Like, do you have a different
yeah,
experience with audience members? Because you don't always have a barrier, right? At stages,
yeah,
like when
yeah,
you're on call with us, for example, it's a very rare thing for us to have a barrier because we're
yeah,
small club shows, right?
yeah,
Oh, here she
yeah.
is. She wants to say hi, everyone. This is Matty.
Hi. Oh,
So
such
this
a
is
big fluff ball.
She is a big fluff ball. She's tiny underneath, but she'll
Oh,
be fluffy on you. Off you
oh, bless her.
go. But
I
yeah,
love
talk to
cats.
me about audience members when you're in shows where you don't have that security of that barrier to be able to take the photos.
Yeah, I must admit, that's quite hard. It really depends on the city and on the country where you're in.
Oh,
You could
interesting.
really, like, when you're in the Netherlands, for example, everyone is so polite and so nice. You know exactly when you're in the Netherlands. It's like, it's crazy. I don't know what they're doing differently, but all these people are so nice and chill and just like, yeah, whatever I do. And they even like offer me the spot, like, do you want to stand in front of me? Because they know apparently. And I'm
You're
always
doing the
like, oh,
job.
thank you. Um, but there are so many other places because that's kind of rare, to
Okay,
be
do the
honest.
dirty. Do the dirty. What's the worst country for people not allowing you to do your job in a small club show?
Oh my God, everyone will hate me for that. But I would say France.
France. Okay. Okay. I was so like, she's gonna say UK. Oh my god, she's gonna say UK. Oh no.
In the UK, it really depends on the city. It's kind of like Germany. It depends on the city. Like in the bigger cities, people are more rude for some reason.
Right.
But like in the smaller cities, people are more chill and nice.
Okay.
I don't know why, but
mean, I think
you
from my
can,
experience of living in two different cities, one that's like London and the other one Norwich, I think in London, you're so used to fighting every day just for your survival, whether that's getting to your tube station
yeah,
or
yeah,
having to
yeah,
work
yeah,
70 hours a week just to survive or
yeah. I
whatever. Like
think you
everything's
just,
busy.
yeah,
Like, so by
yeah,
that point, you're just like, everyone else can actually fuck off.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But Norwich
I
is
think
much more chill.
Yeah, I think this is exactly it. It's the same with Berlin or Cologne or
Yeah.
whatever. Like when I think of big German city or Munich or yeah, like through the audience, like it depends on where you are, but um it's more likely that the crowd isn't that nice to me. Like they won't let me through, or I remember I was a press photographer at a ZZ Top show in
Wow.
like, yeah, but it's long ago, 2015 or so, I
Okay.
think. And someone shouted at me because like at bigger shows as a press photographer, someone you like have to meet at the entrance, and someone from the management picks you up, like all of the photographers together picks you up and leads you to the barrier basically,
Right.
and watches you. And so we were all there. Like it weren't actually that many, it were maybe 5 or 6 people and that management guy. And someone just shouted at us, "Fucking press people, I hate you." And I was like, okay,
Someone needs a cup of tea.
the hell? That was in Berlin, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
Get that man a 2% beer. He needs to chill.
yeah, exactly. That was, I would never forget that, because it was like, how random and
Why?
why? Like, eh? But yeah, whatever. Um, so yeah, the crowd is sometimes a bit, they won't let me through, or I remember on the what is it? It's April, on a tour I've been in March. In March, yeah. We were at a like club, maybe 500 or 600 cap venue,
Mhm.
without a barrier. It wasn't sold out, so there was quite a good space that I could like go through the crowd without like annoying anyone too much.
Mhm.
Um, and I went to the front, and even in the front there were still spaces. So I went to the front between two people. And then this person next to me, she was like, "Yeah, but not the whole time, okay? Because I want to have fun." And I'm like, "All right, chill. I'm not even taking your space. I'm just here for maybe half of a song." And I was like, things like these just throw me off so much in that moment.
I mean, it
My,
must be so surprising, like a shock
yeah,
to just suddenly have this person in your ear, like being really super negative.
yeah,
You just need
yeah.
to get in the zone and do your job, right?
Exactly. And it's like I'm here to do this, and I was literally not bothering her. I wasn't pushing her out of the way. I wasn't taking a spot, nothing. And
Mm.
I couldn't deal with that in that moment. And I left, and I went to the left of the like stage right, like left of the
Mhm.
stage, in front of the stage, because I could. I know I should just have stayed there, but in that moment I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
Um and the funny thing is, the band gave a shout out to the whole crew. They were always doing like that birthday thing, like it's this person's birthday, blah blah blah. Although that person wasn't like celebrating their birthday. And at that show, they were
I know
making a
a band
joke.
like that. I think I might know who you're talking about. Anyway,
at that at that show, they were giving a shout out to the whole crew. So it was the whole crew's birthday, and they it was super funny. And they named everyone.
okay.
So they named me as well. And after that happened, I walked like through the crowd and everything, and that person saw me again, and suddenly she was like that, like that, and offered me her space. And to be honest, I just ignored her.
Love it.
I walked past her. I
Like,
was like, of course, now
yeah,
that you know I'm with them, like what the hell?
yeah, like
That's
you know,
ridiculous.
I hate that backhanded respect, right? When they suddenly realize that you've got this connection that they would love to have. And so,
Yeah,
oh, you
yeah.
know them. Oh, let me be your friend. No, absolutely not.
It's like
Absolutely
you've
not. You've
been
already
just
shown your true colors. Why would I engage with that again?
exactly. It's like,
Oh
what
my
the
God.
hell? And like just things like these, like they happen a lot in the crowd, unfortunately. I mean, on the other hand, I get it. I don't want someone like having a camera in my face, but I always try to make sure to like not stand in front of small people, or like not to take anybody's view. And when I stand like next to people, I always say like, "I'm just here for like a few seconds. Is that all right?" Or like
Yeah, yeah,
when you have a balcony and you go upstairs, sometimes I ask people like, could I maybe just go here for like the next few seconds and just shoot a couple photos, and they're usually fine with
Yeah.
it. But like sometimes they're like and blah, and I'm like, I always try to be polite, you know,
Yeah.
um, and not to bother anyone because I know that they paid to get there and to enjoy themselves, so I
Yeah.
don't want to ruin that, of course.
Yeah.
But it's just like, dude, I'm just trying to do my job as well, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to make them look good on the internet, that you still know that they're touring and that you can still enjoy them. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, yeah, the crowd is sometimes it's sometimes rough and really could like ruin my evening, really.
So
Like,
basically, if you're watching this or listening to this, if you see a photographer at the show, please let them do their job, because
please.
everybody's there to enjoy the show. Everybody knows that everybody's there to enjoy the show, and nobody wants to take that away from you. They just want to do their job. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So what we got here? We got do you feel safe backstage or in a bus or in a van with lots of people that you sometimes might not have met before you jumped on the tour? So have there been times where, I don't know, not just like you've gone on tour with a band that you don't know or a crew that you don't know, but perhaps also we could factor into this that they will have guest list at every show, and so you're going to have like a revolving door of different people, right, that come backstage or come onto the bus. And how safe do you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah, how safe do you feel? How safe does your equipment feel with all of this going on? You know, you're taking thousands of pounds worth of equipment on board you as
Yeah.
well. So how does that affect you on a daily basis?
Yeah. So when I jump on a tour where I know no one, which happened a lot of times already as well, I always feel anxious. Well, that's first. I always feel anxious because
Right.
I mean, I'm okay like in the work environment. But if you don't know the people and then suddenly you have to spend like 24/7 with them,
Mm,
more than a few weeks or whatever, or a few days, you're like, okay, wow, what am I doing here?
yeah.
But usually it works out quite well, and I'm lucky to have like, I'm gonna say like my bands now that I like work with. So I know the crew, I know the people in the band. So that's pretty cool now. And if there's like one new crew member, of course there's like the thought, how's this person gonna be? Or like, does anybody already know him or her? Or how does it work? And we'll see. Um, but usually that is okay in a bus and on a van. But like backstage, um, when it's a bigger show, it's actually quite safe.
Cool.
Because sometimes you have like door codes as well that you and the band and the crew only know the codes, and so you only have access. So that's actually the best when you have that, or when the dressing room is like, or the green room is like behind the stage where no one else has access.
Yeah.
That I'm quite chill with that situation as well, actually. And when I'm on a bus, I have like all my equipment in a pelly case, like in a hard case,
Right.
kind of the size like a suitcase. And I always leave that on the bus, and my computer as well. I always leave it upstairs somewhere where it's not like where people just can't run onto the
Yeah.
bus and grab something real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Um, and I grab my cameras like when I need them, basically.
Yeah.
I always like have them with me. On a van tour, it's a bit different because I don't want to leave my stuff in the van because they get easily broken into. What
Yeah.
happened
Sure.
as well on tour already to me. And I
You've
was
lost
very,
equipment on tour? Did you?
yeah,
Oh
in
shit.
it
Okay.
in Italy, but luckily I had all of my stuff. Like I took my pally with me to the hotel.
Right.
I never leave stuff in the van,
Yeah. Yeah.
never, because yeah. And it was even midday. It was midday on a day off in Italy, and we were like, wow. And then we didn't have a window for like a week. We had like a plastic thing because it was like a special size, so it wasn't available anywhere. They needed to produce it basically. It Yeah, crazy, crazy. And the only thing they stole from the van was a small like carry-on suitcase. There were only sports clothes in there. This is what they stole. And we had all the struggle and in the middle of Italy, like
I guess at least you can be grateful that that's all they stole, though, right? Because
that's true. No one got harmed as
how many
well.
bands I know personally have had
Yeah.
entire vans of gear, thousands of pounds worth
Yeah.
of equipment and instruments, and
Yeah. Or like
just
on
gone.
fire. Oh,
And it
God,
doesn't
yeah.
matter if you've got like insurance or whatever, because you're only going to get like a depreciated value for it, and you have to fight for that money to come through, and you have to buy the instruments yourself in order to get the money back.
Yeah, exactly. And you're still on tour. You need something to
And
play.
so then you're like, okay, so I'm gonna have to hire like instruments or beg, borrow from other bands. Like I feel very lucky that we've never had anything stolen.
Yeah.
But it's just life these days, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You have to be so careful.
Yeah.
Like, and so on van tours, it's obviously different because I don't want to leave my stuff in the van. But when I bring it to the venue, then it's all in the dressing room. And sometimes the dressing room is so easily accessible, like for everyone. If you know where to go, you can get in there so easily.
Yeah.
And no one would see you, like especially during a show when everyone is focused. And this is quite concerning sometimes. But I mean, I try not to think about it too much because if it happens, I can't really do anything. But I don't feel 100% safe about like my equipment and stuff in that situation, definitely. But yeah, I always try to put it somewhere where it's like not like where it's not the first thing to see or whatever. Yeah, you just hope kind of that people are good and not steal any of your stuff or stuff like that. But yeah, that's all you can do really in that moment when you do that job.
So actually, I mean, you in terms of like people, you've actually felt safe, and we've said that at the beginning of the interview. You've actually had really good experiences with the people you've been on tour with. You're very lucky in that respect. Obviously, I know many people in the music industry, especially musicians, who've been assaulted and sexually assaulted and all sorts of stuff. So it's really cool to speak to somebody that actually you've not had any of that as your experience.
To be honest, I had it once.
Okay.
But I still blame myself for that. I know it's not right, but the thing is, I was super drunk, and I just hate myself for that I was drunk because someone basically took advantage of me. It was a van tour, and it was a crew member. And the thing was, it was years and years and years ago, and I haven't been on tour with this band since forever. Not even been in touch with them really.
Is the band still in does the band still tour?
The band does still tour, and this guy
crew member.
Say it again.
Do they know this crew member did that to you?
No. Or? To be honest, you are the first person I mentioned that to.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, I know that you actually should speak out, but it's just embarrassing. I feel embarrassed that I let this happen. It's like I honestly blame it on the alcohol, and that's kind of the reason as well why I stopped drinking a few years ago. Because I don't want anything like that to happen again, because I'm just not myself, and I just kind of let it happen. And the crazy thing was, we had like it wasn't an Airbnb. I think it was like a how do you call it, like band apartment or something like that, above a venue. And they had like 3 or 4 apartments there. I can't even remember where it was. I can barely remember how it looked like, and I remember I forgot my water bottle there, but yeah, whatever. And I shared an apartment with this guy and a woman who was touring with us, and there were 2 bedrooms. And I was so drunk that this guy said, "Oh, I'm gonna share a bed with you, like with me." And I was so drunk that I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I didn't think. I was tired. I was drunk, and I don't know why I said yes and didn't say, "Huh, what the fuck?" But it's like it's over 10 years ago, so in my 20s, like early 20s. Maybe I was 20 or 21 or so. I don't know. I'm 31 now. I turned 32 in a month. So that you get like an idea. But yeah.
I think it's really important though right now for me to say this, and I really hope that you don't mind me saying it, but
Yeah,
the
say
most
it.
important thing is for me right now is to say to you that it absolutely wasn't your fault, and
Yeah,
that
I
no
deep
level
down.
of drunk, no level of
Yeah,
drunk, no type of clothing,
yeah,
you know, and you've heard all of this before,
yeah,
that is not consent.
exactly.
Your
Yeah,
drunkenness is
exactly.
not consent. And whoever that crew member is, whatever that band is, I really hope that he hasn't reoffended. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
And I hope he burns in hell. So
Me too. The thing is, I still see him sometimes. It's very rarely like at festivals or so, but I know which bands he's touring with. He's still touring with a few German bands, but I don't tour with these bands.
yeah.
Um, and every time I'm like at the festival, so where I see this band is playing, it rarely happens, but it happened before, but I try like to avoid him.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like I know that it wasn't my fault,
Yeah.
but it's just yeah, he was basically taking advantage of me being drunk, I
That's
guess.
vile. And I'm so sorry. And
It's
yeah,
like,
I hope that you can recognize that it absolutely isn't your fault. And you
yeah,
are perfectly well within your rights to get as drunk as you absolutely wanted to, because
yeah, yeah,
everyone has the right to get drunk if they want to.
yeah,
And you should have
exactly.
then had the right to have a peaceful night's sleep without fear of
After
somebody
a
coming up
hard
with something like
day.
that. Yeah, so
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
fuck him. And absolutely, like, it was not your fault, Suzi. And I'm sorry that you had to share that story. Off the back of that, what would you say to a young person, woman or otherwise, how what would you say about protecting yourself other than don't drink, but that's not fair?
Yeah, that's
Like,
yeah, exactly.
do
Because you
you
should
have any
still be
advice?
allowed. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have
You
any
sh-
advice for people wanting to get into the industry? Because the music industry can be unsafe. You know, any
yeah,
industry can be unsafe, but the music industry particularly can
yeah,
be unsafe. So what would your
exactly.
advice be for somebody wanting to be a photographer in live music for that?
Um, I well, I basically always try to keep my distance. Because I don't know, but I think this guy probably thought I was flirting with him because I was just polite.
Okay.
And like like back then I was always like very chatty and like just like I talked a lot basically, and I talked a lot like about myself as well, like what I like or whatever, or how I feel, or what I did today. Like I love to share things and love to hear people's stories. Um and like I've been like that everywhere, like in my jobs as well and stuff like that. And then I mean, it's actually it sounds quite sad, but I have the feeling like these kind of reasons are like I'm more like with myself now. I'm way more introverted than
Mm,
extroverted. That's probably not the right way to do it, to like distance yourself, but it's like I'm just always scared, really, that something can happen or something can take advantage of me. Someone reads the signs not in the right way and thinks I'm flirting with this person, although I'm not. And I always try to like stay away from people and really just like do my job
yeah.
and
Just
really
be
just like
perfectly professional.
exactly, and
Perfectly-
really just
Yeah.
to be with my friends or like while on tour to talk to the band what they want or whatever.
Mhm,
And just I try to read people more, and I try to be more careful basically, like how they are with me,
mhm.
like how they interact with me and stuff like that, or
Like
if
reading
they
their body language and that kind of stuff.
exactly, or if
Trying
they
to
like
play with me.
touch me somewhere or
Yeah,
so, because I'm always like,
yeah.
don't touch me, don't shake
Yeah,
my
yeah.
hand, please. I
Yeah.
don't want this. So I think I'm more aware like how people are interacting with me basically. I
Yeah, yeah.
try to be more aware of that, that something like that just won't ever happen again.
Sure. So would that be your advice, is that, you know, because I feel like that would probably be my advice as well, is certainly learn to read body language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Protect yourself in
And
the way that you can, and make sure, yeah.
yeah, definitely this. I think that made me a bit colder as well, to be honest, which is not really nice.
No, but
So I
necessary,
don't want that
unfortunately.
to happen to anyone actually, but like you definitely like have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want anything or if you're concerned about anything, just say it out loud immediately and like let it like kill it immediately,
Yeah,
basically.
sure. Yeah.
That's
Be completely
basically,
honest.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, like complete honesty, because yeah, that's the best way to work with, really, especially on tour, especially with your crew members and band members, because you have to spend all this time with them together in a little tiny space. So there's no way of like talking your way around it, because that just doesn't make sense. Just be honest, say how you feel, no matter what kind of feeling. And if they react like a dickhead, then you say, okay, bye, I'm not doing
Yeah.
this. You have to know your worth. And it took me a long time to learn that, I must admit. It took me basically all these years I'm doing this now, to learn that it's okay to be like that. It's okay to say, I don't want this. I I don't want to do this like that, and or like this or whatever, and I'm not okay with how you're treating me right now. So yeah, this is definitely my advice, to be like, know your worth, be honest. Don't let anybody tell you anything differently, because you're the only person you have your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Your
agree.
whole
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
So I'm just going to
So
summarize here, Susie.
yeah,
So really what we're saying is, if you want to get into live photography, make sure that you're putting yourself out there. Go meet people, network, actually speak to people,
exactly.
and go and try it. Like, don't be
Yeah.
shy. Go and actually just try and get
Yeah.
in and make mistakes, and
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
research your gear. That was another thing that you said, was you researched a lot about the gear that you wanted
Yeah.
to
Oh,
use,
yeah.
places you wanted to be, and how to work with lighting and all of that sort of stuff. So do your research, kids. It's easy. Do some research in order to get in there, but ultimately get in there. And then the final point is protect yourself.
Yeah.
Make sure that you are honest, that you say no when you need to say no.
Yeah.
And protect yourself and your equipment at all times. Is that a
Exactly.
fair summary there?
Yeah,
But
that
otherwise,
is a
we've had a
perfect
great
summary.
time and it's been fun, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. And I just want to say, I love that job. I love everything about it. It's very exhausting and can be super stressful at some points, but it's amazing. It's amazing to meet all these people, to work with creatives together, and just to create something nice. Yeah, it's really, really lovely.
Thank you so much for your time today, Susie. It's just been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And it's been really uplifting to hear some of your stories and how much fun you've had in the industry and how much you love your job. So thank you for being here and chatting to me for all this time. We've been going more than an hour now. So
Oh God.
yeah, oh, I love it. I love it.
Thank you for having me. And I hope some people got inspired, and yeah, just go out there and try it.